U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan is in the midst of a three-day visit to Beijing. The meeting with China's top diplomat is aimed at keeping the channels of communication open amid strained relations. Sullivan and top Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi agreed to more military talks. A call between President Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping will also be planned in the next couple of weeks. Both sides call the talks candid, substantive, and constructive. And for analysis, we turn now to Gordon Chang, author of The Coming Collapse of China and the soon-to-be-released book, Plan Red, China's Project to Destroy America. Gordon, thank you so much for being with us again. We always appreciate it. So what was your biggest takeaway coming out of these high-stakes meetings in China?
Yeah, everyone loves the idea that we're talking to the Chinese about these very contentious and consequential issues. And it sounds like we're making progress. But Jake Sullivan has talked to Wang Yi about 5 times now or so, and things just continue to get worse. So obviously dialogue is not working. And that means we've got to do things which are more coercive. And I know people don't want to do that. But if we don't, we're going to slide to war, because the course of the Biden administration has only led to a deterioration, a very frightening deterioration in East Asia.
Yeah, and Gordon, as we know, the U.S. and China have agreed to more military talks, as well as a phone call between Xi Jinping and President Biden. What do you think that signals?
Well, it signals the Chinese are willing to humor us. You know, the idea that we have these talks with China, and people think, well, we establish a constructive dialogue. The problem is that when we really need to talk to China during a crisis, Chinese generals and admirals don't talk to us. And they don't do that because they're afraid of actually saying something and getting ahead of the political leadership. So, while it sounds like these dialogues are a good thing, and on a general matter they are, we had them with the Soviet Union. The problem is with China, they just have not worked.
Yeah, I also now want to pivot to the upcoming U.S. elections. How do you think China is viewing the landscape right now, Gordon? And how do you think they would view a Harris presidency versus a Trump presidency?
In Beijing, they talk about 2 bowls of poison, which means they don't like either of them. But I think that they really don't like President Trump. And the reason is not that he is more anti-China, quote unquote, it's that he's unpredictable. You know, the Chinese can deal with anything. They can deal with hostile American presidents. They do that all the time. But the point is they cannot deal with somebody who they cannot figure out in advance. Remember President Trump in April 2017, when Xi Jinping was at Mar-a-Lago, Trump stood up after dinner, after that beautiful piece of chocolate cake, and said, look, I've just sent 59 missiles into Syria, which was a Chinese friend. And Xi Jinping was flummoxed. And that means for 4 years, he was relatively well behaved. He hasn't been well behaved with Biden, even though Biden does things he doesn't like, because he can read Biden like a book.
We have about a minute left or so, Gordon, but I quickly want to ask you this. As you know, China has stepped up its aggression around Taiwan as well as the Philippine Coast Guard. The ships there, do you think this is kind of a saber-rattling? And, do you think it will end once a new administration enters the White House, or do you think it may get worse?
This is going to get worse. When China saber rattles with Taiwan, that's huffing and puffing, because I don't think the Chinese military want to take on that island republic. But on the Philippines, they see it as a weakling. They see it as a big political win and a quick win without casualties. And so they're going to do things which make things even worse. They're going to go too far. We have an obligation to defend the Philippines. This is really serious, Tracy.
It certainly sounds like it, Gordon. What else is on your radar?
The most important thing, I think, is what's happening inside of China, especially with the economy. The economy isn't growing at the 4.7% pace that they claimed for the second quarter. It's probably around 0, which means that China can't service its debt, which means that Xi Jinping right now, I think, must be getting a little hysterical, because what he's trying to do to export to the world isn't going to work for very much longer. And that means he has no solutions to his #1 problem.
All right, we're going to leave it right there. Gordon, always great to be with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tracy.